Hello and welcome. You are now tuned in to Thatha Wena, and I am Macmillan ZS Mabaleka. Stay tuned.
Salibonani lonke and welcome to Thatha Wena, that show that brings the upside of arts, culture and lifestyle from this beautiful Zimbabwe and of course the mother continent Africa. Celebrating being African, did you know that Africa Day was formerly known as Africa Liberation Day? African Freedom Day is a commemoration of one being African and was established on the 25th of May in 1963. It is with this in mind that I would love to emphasize on us being proudly African and Zimbabweans at the same time, taking up our stories, sharing our stories, and being proud of those stories. I am proud of being Zimbabwean, and so should you. I am proud of what it has made me be as an individual. So, lawa kumele nje ube njalo. My name is Gilmore T, the global citizen, and you are watching your favorite TV show, Thatha Wena. Filming has played an important role in telling stories, in bringing color, life, sound to pictures. Filming evokes emotion. Sometimes you hate someone because of what you see on TV. Sometimes you fall in love with someone's story, yet they're just telling a story that you also feel like you can relate to. But of late, the struggle to hear our stories, see ourselves in these films has grown at a speed of light. In this episode, we talk about Westerners being cast as lead roles in African films, major films that have to do with African. We also talked to Macmillan Mabaleka, a talented Zimbabwean actor, dancer, and director based in South Africa. He's going to share on his perspective and experience as one such talented individual. And later on, we'll shut it down with what grinds my gears, grinding our gears. I'm sure when I say yes, you'd know what I mean. Welcome, Nkululeko, Innocent Dube.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a good feeling to be here too.
In this episode, we are talking about Westerners being cast in roles in major films as Africans. We're talking about the Don Cheadle in Hotel Rwanda. We've got Morgan Freeman in Madiba. We have a lot of them. Idris Elba, Jill Scott. She was also in one of the leading movies. Why is this like that?
I don't know whether to call it a cruel world, but I will tell you that as long as the hunter is the one that is telling the story, then the hunted will not tell their own story. There's a saying about this. The fact of the matter is that we are living in a commercial world, and the bigger guys, if I may put it that way, they are the ones telling our stories, and they're the ones selling our stories, and they are all about selling these stories. And that is basically the real truth about why we end up having foreigners playing roles in African stories. Yeah. The first time I noticed this was in South Africa when they were shooting Sarafina, and they brought in Whoopi Goldberg to play a role that had been played so well by a local performer on stage in the States at Broadway. A local performer had been doing this so well, and she was so popular. But when it came to shooting the movie, she was put aside, and they put Whoopi into the story. There are two sides to it. You would love to see your own people tell their own stories, but then the big companies out there, you're talking your Hollywood, you're talking your Sonys, you're talking so many companies out there that are big. They're trying to sell these stories. It's about numbers. It's about the dollar sign at the end of the day.
So would you say possibly we're not approaching this as a business per se?
We are not. We are approaching it as a point where people are doing us a favor by telling our stories. You know, we are apologetic. We are because Africa is known to be one of the most respectful continents. And you will see, even from colonization until today, we are well receiving, and we only realize that we lose after being so kind. So I think it's time also that we decided, and when somebody comes and says, I want to tell your story, we need to set the terms. They don't need to set all the terms for us. day.
But I would also like to differ, because you find that in Asia, the Asians, they act their own movies. The Jackie Chans, they made it so popular in Asia. And why is it always in Africa? Because you hardly see a Westerner going to act in Asia, a Westerner going to act in Europe. It's always in Africa.
I think the easy thing to do is we as Africans, we as people in Africa need to start our own initiatives. Like if you look at Nigeria, they've started this. You look at, the whole, Nollywood is now huge. So as long as somebody out there is proposing it to us, then they will set the terms for us. So we need to start to resource ourselves. I think we are one of the most talented continents, absolutely. And we have the most interesting stories. Otherwise, no one would be coming here to try and tell our stories. But we really have a lot of resource in terms of stories. We are quite a rich continent. But what we don't have then is the facility, the power, the muscle to then create our own studios and do our own shows, and at the most sell these stories out there. I think we've concentrated a lot on developing the talent more than we've concentrated on actually getting it out there. So most people know we have the best stories, but they don't know who we are. And therefore, those that are known will come and be the ones that are telling our stories.
But then also what happens to being authentic, our voice? Because at the same time, sometimes I watch a movie and then I do not even see myself in that movie. Sometimes it's not about seeing myself personally, but it's about relating to someone in the movie, the accents. These people, they tell it wrongly at times.
I think when I also, I tried to follow this Idris Elba story, playing Mandela, there was an issue that they couldn't find somebody who was as tall as Mandela in South Africa. And Mandela was South African, and there are so many people that are really tall out there. So this was more like an excuse. But the fact of the matter was, then they were just trying to make sure that people go out to the cinemas to see Idris Elba and to tell the stories. And yeah, I would have loved to see a closer person play that role, and in really the tone that we know of. Because then I don't know how much also goes into training somebody in language and pronunciation and everything that goes into being African. I mean, we are African. It's not like we're not there. So maybe
we don't need to train to tell our stories.
Yeah, we don't need to be trained to tell our stories.
I like the aspect that you mentioned of colonization. It's killer. Hey. Do you think this has also maybe affected us? Because as Africans, we're constantly looking at someone to approve us. We're always looking at Hollywood to approve us.
A lot. I think what has happened in the world is that we have kissed and made up. And it's all cosmetic. But we didn't go back to look at the things that really colonization did to us as people and us as a continent. And we can see the effects up to today, where we as Africans still believe that somebody out there has to endorse us before we can say something is good, you know. For me, I see it it's a lot in the arts and everywhere. It's so important to go and perform overseas than it is important to go and perform in a local domain. You know, it's like you've made it if you've gone to the other part of the world. Everybody's aspiring to go there. And therefore, they also use that because they know we are all looking up to be like them. But they're not looking up to be like us. And that is where all this comes from. That's where all these effects come from, where at the end of the day, somebody's telling us what to do and actually imposing things on us. Because we are not yet a continent that is confident in its own abilities and in its own strength.
But then also when these big productions come to Africa, you know, they also cast African actors to be supporting acts in the films. Doesn't this present like an opportunity for us to learn possibly?
It does, but I think more could be done. I agree with you that because if you look at, for instance, in South Africa, they've actually come up with huge studios there. And I'll tell you, don't think that it's because they like us or because they are trying to bring investment to us. The fact of the matter is it's cheaper to run these huge studios in Africa than it is where they are. So they know they're bringing the equipment there. Yes, our performers and other actors and directors are also benefiting from these facilities. But the fact of the matter is there's more. We can ask for more. We have the bargaining power at the moment because we have what they want. We have the cheaper resources that they need. So we need to speak up. We need to stand up and speak for ourselves and say, okay, let's meet halfway. Because it's not like we are being done a favor. Because somebody's coming to tell my story. It's not a favor that you tell my story. Actually, it's more capitalism than anything else, if I may put it that way.
We spoke to one of the most outstanding actors from Zimbabwe, Zimbabwean born, based in South Africa. His name is Macmillan Mabaleka. He's an actor, he's a dancer, he's a director, and he had this to say.
Do you feel that they always have to cast, directors always have to cast Americans or Westerners to take those lead roles of an African in major films?
Whereas Africans can look at it as they're taking our stories and getting their people to be cast and acting as people who we revere, you know? And then you can look at it as it's Paramount or Viacom or 21st Century Fox that are the producers of the story. So they get the rights to buy the story, and then they produce the story. So they end up having the rights to who they want to cast. And again, who's going to be the audience of that story, that platform. And seeing as it's Westerners who are coming and filming and using those stories, they're taking those stories back to where they've come from. Who's going to watch it? Their people. So then they recognize the Morgan Freemans, the Matt Damons. Whereas here, I don't even think any of them know.
Yeah, but then at the same time, our stories being told, are they being correctly carried out when they're being told? Because you spoke about them telling our stories, but why can't we be involved in telling our own stories? Because for years as Africans, we have been suffering from this thing of telling our stories. But when are we ever going to tell our own stories? Don't we have enough time?
That's the thing though, it's a beautiful thing to say, when are we going to tell our own stories?
Yes.
That is all up to us. Like it's actually all up to us really. But then I think the problem is with us as Africans, is that we have been groomed to always seek approval. You know,
but do we always have to seek approval?
That's the question.
When are we ever going to approve ourselves of things that have to do with us?
This is why I like Nollywood, Nigerian films. Where else are stories about Nigerian lifestyle? Where are they best told?
In Nigeria.
By the Nigerians. You can't expect someone else who's coming in and outside to tell your story better than you. And I feel as to an extent, we kind of allow them to tell these stories. And you only get treated the way you allow people to treat you. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
My experience with a lot of filmmaking in South Africa with internationals coming through and filming sets in Cape Town, Black Sails, you know, and the like. Not that this is about them, but like I've seen a tendency where a lot of prominent actors that we revere in both theatre and film, like John Gunn, Fiona Ramsey, you know, the lot, they are cast not as main roles in those plays, in those films, in those productions. You know, they're given cameos, and the focus is people like who are cast in from America or England, wherever it is, the West, and they come through. And I find it very interesting to watch. I had this debate with myself, like how do you go and make someone who's a big fish in their own yard a small fish when you come through? I mean, no comparison to Idris Elba. It's a slap. It's a slap on the face. I think it also depends on how you look at it.
I look at it as a slap out.
For me, a wake up call because
to us,
yes,
Africans,
no, to us, okay. Because that cry that we always have in trying to seek help from somewhere else, it's not going to happen.
I like the fact that he stated that we can also learn from something from these Westerners that come and invade our spaces. But at the same time, just being paid, even if it's just $20,000 and Will Smith has been paid $50,000, does that even empower us?
I don't think it does. I empower us. I like his point too. I always say, no matter how little an opportunity is, use it to get bigger opportunities. So it now boils down to us as people that get into these things to then make sure that we carve a niche from there and rise. But my concern then is, what roles are they playing in when they say they are inclusive? What roles are they giving to us? What then are they? Because most of the time, the African then becomes the villain in the movie, yes, or the criminal that gets charged, gets shot. And that goes out to the world. That's what, at the end of the day, we are perceived to be. I always have a problem with the roles that they especially for those that, of course, there are people that are behind the scenes. For instance, if you go to, or you come to Zimbabwe and then you employ a lot of people to do the movie. But when they give roles to Africans, what roles do they give them? and what does it say about Africa? Because this is a story that people watch, and they're not actually giving this story to Africans. They're actually going to tell it to the world, and particularly the Western world. So whatever things that come out as who we are, at the end of the day, it must matter. We should not then, be so apologetic to the legal opportunity that we are prepared to even play roles that will distort who we are and distort our stories and distort our languages in most of time. Because that's important. These things will stay forever, and the young people out there will know us as people probably that are criminals, that do drugs, that where are the beautiful roles that Africans are? Because we have witch doctors. We sometimes portray as witch doctors. To us, which is not a witch doctor, probably it's a traditional healer to us. But then when these come out in these movies, and we also have actually adopted it as Africans, the fact that we see our own culture and try to present it as the evil side of who we are, because we are taking it from them. There are opportunities, but I think it's important that we also make sure that we don't get abused in the process.
But you spoke about Hollywood. Hollywood is about sales. So do you think an image about an African living in a lavish house, an African having a good life, will sell to Hollywood? Because, I mean, what's your thoughts?
I think when it comes to Hollywood, this is a make-believe world. Truth of the matter is, yes, they know what sells. Yes. And they don't care what we think at the end of the day. It's all about the dollar sign, as I said before.
But how can we make a stand? Because of late there was a story of Sibongi Demlambo. She's a Zimbabwean actress based in the USA. She's doing incredible stuff. She was recently cast as a lead in Honey 3, taking over from Jessica Alba. But then she was cast as a South African, and the movie is being filmed in South Africa. So a lot of South Africans, there was a bit of hoo-ha on social media, in media, saying, why are you casting a Zimbabwean to lead as a South African in a movie? So how can we make a stand when we ourselves can't stand?
I agree with you. Charity begins at home, and we are also our own enemies, because we also have our own battles as an African continent of who we are, who is better, which language, which origin is the best. So before, maybe we need to start at home. We need to start recognizing each other because that's what also the world is taking advantage of. The divide and rule, or the divisiveness, because they know also that we as a continent also have our struggles. You see it every day. It's not easy, for instance, for a Zimbabwean actor to go into the South African market and make it. And if they do, you will find that there comes a time where the whole industry is quite trying to pull that person down. I think you will not. I've seen there is Stanley Ndlovu who is playing on his fire. He's a local, But at the end of the day now, I doubt sometimes that some people, not only him, I'm not actually referring to him, but there are some people that at the end of the day will try to forget their Zimbabwean identity because otherwise it jeopardizes their opportunities there. So it starts with us also as people to try and appreciate each other. We just need one voice. We need structures. We need because we are more concerned about, we are fighting lone battles. This is the problem. And when somebody comes from one end to speak for their supper and the other one comes from another end, then it's easier to monopolize, and it's easier to abuse you. But if we as Africans then came up with entities that really speak on our behalf, and I don't think it doesn't exist, there is a system. Even to the big guys, all these huge companies in Europe and in the Americas, they have a system. They also have groupings where they are putting standards together. Yes, they may be different, they may be competitors, but they know that when they come to us, even if they are competitors, they have a way to really
coming as a front,
tying the screws and coming as a front. We need that. We can never ever eradicate the differences. I think let's stop trying to be too good and say one day Africa will be one. It's not. Definitely, you even here as a Kalanga and the Debele and the Shona, you also still have that pride in who you are, and it's natural that you want to compete with others. But then there should be common ground.
There should be, which is the acting.
Yes.
So we need to be able to embrace who we are. We'll be back with more on Thatha Wena.
We subscribe to other forms of storytelling. And there's a difference between subscription and acknowledge and enjoy. I mean,
Yes, that's right.
Yes, we have subscribed. We have subscribed to the Western style of storytelling as the form of storytelling, right? I mean, a lot of history in a lot of African history has kind of been wiped out. I mean, that's how you actually kill a nation. You go to the people that have the wealth of the culture. You take their stories. You get rid of them. A nation has nowhere to go. It doesn't know where it's been. You know, and if that kind of culture right now where we are, if we can get a place where we can look at, okay, this is our history, go back to our elders, find out about what happened, then those stories can keep coming back, and then we can find an interesting, intricate way of how, one, as Zimbabwe, we can tell our own stories. Two, as a southern region, how we can tell our own stories, you know. Then it becomes the kind of thing starts to spread. I mean, Nollywood and Bollywood, I didn't know about them until they were a thing, and Lord knows how long they've been going, developing, you see, until it became something that was now global. So we can now just sit down and be like, okay, Bazalon, right. So we have this issue here, we have a story about this. How do we tell it? Begin, does it catch on? Okay, it doesn't catch on, right. Try to figure out how to tinker it. Work at that craft of telling our own stories the way we know how to tell them. Hence, that's why they'll sell. That's why Westerners and every other nation is coming here to tell stories and use the resources that we have here, because there's nowhere else you can find them.
But you know what? When you talk about that, about nowhere else you can find it, we must give a huge shout out to people like Leroy Kopao, who acted on Yellow Card.
Yes.
Back then he was just a normal actor, and he went on to act on Yellow Card. I feel why he did so well is because he was telling a Zimbabwean story. He was a Zimbabwean telling that story, so it was more relevant to the community and the society. They found that they could maybe relate to it.
Definitely.
Films like Nelia, they went on to even have a song by one of them winning an award on many platforms. So maybe it gives us, I mean, maybe it's a good example of how we can actually own our own things.
We can. Like, it hasn't been proven that we haven't. Like, the films you have named right now, they have, like, no offense to Tsotsini SA, but Neria kicked.
No, but Tsotsi did well.
It did well, but like for me, like Neria is one that would just be like, yo.
But you see,
It's so deep.
another example of how we as Africans can actually take charge of our own stories.
And again, like, exactly. And the thing is, for South African, Tsotsi is profound. And because I'm not taking away from it, it's theirs. It's their story. That's beautiful. Neria is mine. It's from Zimbabwe. It's mine. I can hold it. I'm like, you know what? We can actually do it.
Would love to hear from you, so please let us know what you think about this topic and many other things that you'd like to see on the show. The social media handles are on the screens, and the hashtag is Thatha Wena. Let's get an insight into some of the social ills that affect us as a community, as a people, as a society. We would love to start to think about how we can make them better, to turn them into positives. In our next segment, what grinds my gears?
Hi everyone, my name is Pia Karimakwenda, a current actress.
Hi, my name is Rudo.
Do you know what really grinds my gears is people looking at the outside, judging us on the way we dress and rating us according to our holiness. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Holiness is on the inside and not on the outside. And fashion is a way to express yourself, not to express holiness. And people get those two mixed up. But obviously you're not supposed to overdo it like what some people do. But just more keep to yourself and concentrate on yourself than being ready to lash onto other people's lives and opinions, because we're all different at the end of the day.
What really grinds my gears is really bad customer services. Like, there's nothing as bad as walking into a shop and no one wanting to serve you. I find that it's almost everywhere that I go, actually, where you're like, okay, listen, I'm here, I want to buy something, talk to me, do something, but you know, you just never get the attention that you need. And also on that tip, it's, you know, when you're in a restaurant and you buy something and it's like they just don't want to come back and get their money or their bill. So yeah, that really grinds my gears.
What else should I say?
What an exciting episode we have. Thank you very much for joining us, but would like to thank Nkululeko Innocent Dube for coming into studio and talking to us, and also Macmillan Mabaleka, who had a lot to share as an actor based in the foreign lands and from the beautiful nation of Zimbabwe. Would love to hear from you, would love to hear what grinds your gears on our social media platforms. The hashtag is Thatha Wena, but if you'd like to follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, we are also Thatha Wena. My name is Gilmore, the Global Citizen. Until next time, same place, enjoy the rest of your viewing and Thatha Wena.